Biography of William Richardson Davie by Tumblr user William Davie. So, William Richardson Davie was born in 1756 on June 20th or June 22nd in Egremont, England, to parents Mary Richardson and Archibald Davie. The family moved to America when Davie was about 7 years old. He was sent to live with an uncle who resided in South Carolina. The uncle was a priest for the Waxhaw Presbyterian Church. Davie originally was supposed to work for the church, so he was sent to Charlotte, New Jersey, but then his uncle suddenly died, so Davie changed his profession of choice to law. Davie attended Princeton in 1774 and graduated with honors in 1776. He then joined the military. Most of his campaigns were around the North and South Carolina border. His purpose was to prevent the British soldiers stationed at Charleston, South Carolina, from moving northwards. And he was in many battles. I'm only going to cover Battle of Stono Ferry because that is the most important one in his life, in his career. And he was a commissary general, so he was responsible for providing provisions for the soldiers. And since the Continental Congress did not have the money to provide for the soldiers, Davie sold his inheritance from his uncle, so 150 acres, he sold that off to be able to have enough money to purchase provisions for the soldiers. And once the Congress did give him the board did give him the provisions, but they were mostly luxury items like rum and sugar, and this definitely irked him. So Battle of Stono Ferry, he was shot under, his horse was shot under him, and he fell and suffered a major wound, and a soldier carried him off to safety. And Davie wanted to thank the soldier later, but the soldier's body was found among the carcasses, so unfortunately Davie was not able to thank the soldier. But his wound was severe enough that he was hospitalized for the rest of the year. And then he basically stopped his military campaigns from then. And then he went to law. He joined the law circuits of North Carolina, and there's an excellent quote by Judge Murphy. And this is what Judge Murphy said about William Davie. So, Judge Murphy, who knew him and had heard him, said, quote, "Davie took Lord Bolingbroke for his motto and applied himself with so much diligence to the study of his master that literary men could easily recognize his lofty and flowing style. He was a tall, elegant man in person, graceful and condescending in his manners. His voice was mellow and adapted to the expression of every passion. He had a greatness of manner in public speaking, which suited his style and gave his speeches an imposing effect. He was a laborious student and arranged his discourses with care, and when the subject suited his genius, poured forth a torrent of eloquence that astonished and delighted his audience. They looked upon him with delight, listened to his long, harmonious periods, caught his emotions, and indulged that ecstasy of feeling which fine speaking and powerful eloquence can alone produce. He is certainly to be ranked among the first orators whom the American nation has produced." Yes, thank you, Judge Murphy. And then, after serving the circuits, I forgot to mention something. Okay, around this time was when he married Sarah Jones, whose family was a big anti-Federalist family. Her uncle was famous Wiley Jones, who argued vehemently against the ratification of the Constitution. I will cover more about Wiley Jones later. And so the Sarah Jones-William Davie match was very interesting. Then Davie was elected to the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, along with Richard Speight, I think, a man with the surname of Martin, Alexander Martin, and William Blunt, William Blunt was a loser. And this is what William Davie wrote about William Blunt. So, quote, I am strongly inclined to fatalism of the late, have believed for some time that God Almighty made that man on purpose to disgrace his country. Wonderfully put, William. So, thank you, William Davie. At the convention, there were two main things, and I will actually cover those two main things. So, two very important issues were slavery and representation in Congress. Well, just Congress itself. So what Davie did, he casted the swing vote for North Carolina in favor of Roger Sherman's Great Compromise, and this, he proposed for bicameral legislation, one house based off of population and one house based off quality for representation. Davie casted the swing vote for North Carolina, which North Carolina's yes vote eventually was the swing vote. Was a swing vote for all the states, and so William Davie is the reason why we have today's system of Congress. And the next thing is slavery. William Davie was pro-slavery, which he was a plantation owner in his life. Slavery is wrong. Slavery is an abomination. What William Davie having owned slaves is wrong. Davie stated that North Carolina would not join the Union if the 35th Compromise was not passed. And basically what the 35th Compromise was, slaves would be counted at the 35th Representation in Congress, would be taxed as so. And Davie threatened that, well, what Davie's point of view was that North Carolina should have more representation in Congress, even if that meant more taxes. That's okay. So 35th Compromise also passed, and he left early from the convention because there was a lot of service to be done for the traveling circuits in North Carolina. And so he returned back to the traveling circuits. Wow, that sounds like traveling circuits. And then he was elected to the House of Commons from 1786 and 1787. Represented the borough of Halifax in the House of Commons. Yes. Of course, Davie left the convention early, which means his signature is not on the Constitution, which means there's no statue of him at the Constitution Center in Philadelphia, which means I couldn't take a picture with his statue, and there's no statue of him in this country or anywhere. And a senator from North Carolina did want a statue to be put up at University of North Carolina. But the president of the student body, so Blanche Brown, she didn't want it. She didn't want the statue. She is the reason why I can't have happy things in life. Well, one happy thing in life. And then after that, he pushed for a charter. Well, he did create a charter for the creation of the University of North Carolina. He believed public education was very important and imperative to society's well-being. And so he was a major benefactor and supporter for the creation of the University of North Carolina. He picked out the location, and UNC is located in Chapel Hill. Very nice place. And at Chapel Hill, there is a poplar tree named after him, so the Davie poplar tree. And there's a building named after him, and the building is not that pretty. It's kind of ugly, actually. And Davie was the 4th Grand Master of Masons of North Carolina, and he laid the cornerstone to one of the buildings, and on that cornerstone it says 1793, I believe. So, fun fact. That's pretty much it for The university gave him its first honorary degree, so an LLD, Doctorate of Law degree. So I guess William Davie technically should be referred to as Dr. William Richardson Davie, but he's dead, and that's a problem for another day. And then talking about politics, back to his political stances. 1800 Jefferson was elected to office. Davie hated Jefferson and his Republican Democrat Party. And then 1805, Davie ran for House of Representatives, lost against a person who used to be Federalist, but then changed to a Republican Democrat because he could not resist the popularity of the Jeffersonians. So that irked Davie. 1812, and in 1812, which is a banned year on my blog, Davie ran for vice president, and he lost. It was a pretty awful vote. Pretty awful vote. And fun fact, the candidates running for president during 1812 were incumbent James Madison and Rufus King, Federalist. James Madison was part of the Democratic Republican Party, and a Pinckney that didn't get a lot of votes, so I'm not going to talk about the Pinckney. Davie wanted Madison to be president, believed that he was the best candidate, which is interesting because one would expect Davie, who is a staunch Federalist, to vouch for Rufus King, but he didn't, and that's probably because Rufus King abhorred slavery, whereas Davie was a proponent of slavery. So that's 1812. Going back to a few years before, to the ratification of the Constitution in North Carolina. Wiley Jones, his uncle-in-law, spoke vehemently against it. Davie did not like the Anti-Federalist argument. Davie is also a very sassy debater, which means I portrayed him quite well at my class's mock Constitution Convention. Wiley Jones, staunch Anti-Federalist. Most of Davie's in-laws were Anti-Federalist. I think all of his in-laws were Anti-Federalist. So that's just a bit more information about Wiley Jones. And bouncing back now to after 1812, Davie retired from politics. He basically knew that the Federalist Party they weren't going to have any more candidates in a higher political position. Davie retired to his plantation, Tivoli, in South Carolina, and he was an avid horse racer. So he bought a horse for $5,000, and today that's about $25,000 to $30,000. He named the horse Sir Archie, presumably after his father, Archibald. So Sir Archie, very famous horse, admitted to some famous horse racing Hall of Fame. And yeah, famous horse. And then that's pretty much it for William Davie. He died in 1820, and and after the XYZ affair of John Adams, Davie was sent as an envoy to France and to negotiate with Napoleon. And even though Davie was second in the mission, Napoleon always addressed Davie directly, and he gave Davie a medal. And Davie probably was fluent in French because he was a skilled linguistic. And that's actually pretty much it for William Davie. So thus ends the biography of William Richardson Davie.